Well, last weekend saw the occasion of this year's Morecambe and Vice Festival, and we sent our intrepid reporter, or should that be decrepit reporter, Bob Dawes up to Morecambe to investigate. But first of all, he had to get over a serious case of wind.
This is Partners in Crime with Adam Croft and Robert Dawes.
Happy Friday, Windy Bob.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I think I should point out to our listeners that the wind we are actually talking about is the rather gusty wind that can come whipping off the Irish Sea and across Morecambe Bay and affects sensitive microphones acutely, therefore making certain recordings null and void, unfortunately.
It would be fair to say we lost about 3/4 of the material that you brought back because all we could hear was...
Which some people would think was much better than having to listen to me drone on. But sadly, it's true. So, I mean, I'm just going to have to fill in our listeners, if I may.
Maybe we could recreate it.
Well,
I could pretend to be Hugh Fraser,
and I'll pretend to be the wind. No, well, Morecambe Vice, a huge success. We have got a report from there, chatting to several of the wonderful best-selling crime writers and crime experts that were talking there this year. But that will be coming up in a minute. But the things that you might have lost, the scenes that we could not use due to that aforementioned wind, it was me explaining as I walked along the promenade, the gorgeous promenade at Morecambe, passing the statue, the marvellous statue of the great British comedian Eric Morecambe. And for listeners abroad who may not have heard of Eric Morecambe, and indeed his partner Ernie Wise, Morecambe and Wise, they were a huge tradition. They're probably two of our greatest comedians over here, much loved, especially for their Christmas shows. He came from Morecambe, took his name from Morecambe, and there's a wonderful statue of him sort of half dancing and half waving. I waved at it as I meandered along the promenade, and I thought it waved back. I'm not entirely sure, but yes, and
but we'll never know because the recording's been lost.
It will be the lost recording.
Well, it's amazing what we lost. We also lost your duet with Shakira on the karaoke. That's gone. Your resurrection of Charles II. I think that was one of the ones that we unfortunately can't listen to.
A sad loss. These are all sad losses. One
hell
day,
of a weekend though.
Yeah. Well, Tony Robinson will probably, or descendant of Tony Robinson, will probably dig them up somewhere and just say, "Oh, they'll have the ability to get rid of wind in decades to come, and they'll be able to listen to them afresh." But one of the things that I missed in particular was I was just rounding the bend, and on Morecambe Front there is an iconic building which is the Midland Hotel, which is the most wonderful piece of Art Deco architecture, known to millions worldwide because it regularly appears in films of any film or television that is set in that particular period of the 20s and 30s, and used, and this is the crime connection here, as Hugh pointed out to me, he filmed there in 1989 in a big episode of Poirot. I rounded the corner, and there, sitting having a quiet pint, was the best-selling author Joe Thomas, who had said he'd gone for a long walk and was rewarding himself with the aforementioned a pint. So I had a little chat with him. Unfortunately, that again was a recording we couldn't talk, but he talked about his new books, which are set in Brazil. Mario Lemmy is his detective in the civil police, and his latest book is called Gringa. I'll just tell you a little bit about it. Mario Lemmy, a detective in the civil police, has developed a friendship with a young English investigative journalist Ellie when she goes to meet a contact in central Sao Paulo. Mario observes from the street as she walks into a building and doesn't come out. Inside, he discovers the dead body of a young man he doesn't recognise and Ellie's phone lying on the floor. He's got rave reviews for his books. As I say, Gringa is the latest. He's an extraordinary writer and a very nice chap, and I wish you'd been able to listen to him talking about his books instead of me relating them to you. But look out for Joe Thomas and his third in his trilogy. And what is particularly interesting about this trilogy, you can read them in any order. He has structured them so you can actually read the latest and go back to read the first one, and it all works magically. Well, not magically, it takes a lot of hard work to do it, but there we are. So that sort of is the, apart from the ones you've mentioned, the last of the lost tapes.
Yeah, it must have been quite interesting talking to him. I managed to, I did listen to a bit of it, and he said something along the lines of...
Yes, well, he also had an award-winning part in Star Wars. He's not only a best-selling author, and he's a creative writing. He's a doctor in creative writing at Royal Holloway. So, he knows his onions. But on the side, yes, he has the most wonderful ability to put on prosthetics and appear as creatures from outer space, quite obviously, listening to your impersonation of him.
Of the wind.
Of the wind.
Yeah, but it was... anything else to say about Morecambe Vice? Because otherwise we'll go straight into your report, I think.
Pretty much, apart from the fact I thoroughly enjoyed myself, but that comes across, I think, in the report. It was a triumph, and lots of people there who I was knocked out by. I think I may even mention them in the report. I managed to catch Peter Robinson, I mentioned that. Julius Green was there talking about Agatha Christie on the stage, which was wonderful too. And MJ Arledge was in a great... he made a cocktail. I should explain that authors were asked if they had any hidden talents. And Matt Arledge, he made the most wonderful cocktail for his panel, to the point of view that several of the audience felt a little left out. They would have liked to have had one, including me, I might add. And Hugh Fraser and I did If I Were Not Upon the Stage, where we discussed how treading the boards has influenced our work as crime writers. So it was a great afternoon. Probably one of the highlights was Julius Green, who 30 years ago had been a fire eater, and his hidden talent was to eat fire, which he did. A foot of flame disappearing into his gullet. So that was quite dramatic.
That particular meal not endorsed or recommended by Hugh Fraser, I don't think.
No, not at all.
Well, not on his list.
We'll get to our latest restaurant report a little later on, but I suppose let's go full on into...
Well, I was going to just do, because as we've been so excited talking about Morecambe Vice, we haven't done what we've been reading and watching. I mean, I presume you haven't had any time to read or watch anything, but I have caught up with something I think we spoke about a while ago on this, or it has been mentioned, and that is a detective series called River.
Oh, I think River was fantastic.
I only started watching it this week. I was surfing through Netflix trying to find something I hadn't watched, and came across this, and within about 10 minutes I thought, why haven't I watched this before? Absolutely brilliant. A hell of a twist which comes in the first episode and just kind of comes out of nowhere. It's not kind of billed that that's what the series is about, but it comes up right up on top of you, and you think, wow, okay, I'm going to carry on watching this. And yeah, I'm I think on episode 3 now, so I've got a fair way to go, but yeah, brilliant, loving it.
It was one of those series that I watched. It was programmed opposite Chris Lang's brilliant Unforgotten, and I think lost out because of that. A lot of people were watching Unforgotten, and not enough people watched River. Brilliant performances. The thing was that Nicola Walker, who plays the lead in Unforgotten, had a major part in River too. But it's a brilliant, innovative detective series, I thought, playing with crime facts and the mind and the supernatural and all sorts of elements that came into me. I thought it was brilliantly made, so I think that's a great call.
It is, yeah. It's highly recommended from me.
BBC,
and yes, yeah, and on Netflix now as well.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, that's how I found it. Yeah, I at the moment, the next few weeks, I'm probably not going to be able to recommend many books because I'm currently in the midst of judging a book prize, which means I've had a pile of books land on my desk that I had to read and judge. Obviously, not talk about on here because I'm doing it for a magazine in New York. But I did, just before the books landed on my desk, manage to read a new book from author James P. Sumner, who writes the Adrian Hell series. Now, his books are a bit more kind of action thriller, I suppose, than traditional crime, but they are definitely crime. He's got a new book out, Crossfire, which is the first in a new series, a Globotech thriller series. I'll read you the blurb. Globotech Industries, the world's leading private defence contractor. Jericho Stone heads up an elite unit of operatives charged with protecting a high-value client whose daughter was recently kidnapped. Their mission brief: he must survive the next 72 hours. But as the team learn more about their client's business, their own lives are put on the line, fighting a powerful enemy who will stop at nothing to get what they want. The clock is ticking.
Ooh, bum, bum,
So yeah, not a traditional detective crime, but very much, I suppose, a kind of a political espionage action thriller, and very much of our times, and highly recommended.
Great, lovely, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, that's one from James P. Sumner. If you head over to kobo.com, if you like the sound of that, find that book and enter the promo code CRIME at the checkout, and our very kind sponsors Kobo will give you 90% off of your first ebook purchase with them.
Yes.
Very, very good of them.
And to that, you might want to also add on Kobo, and hopefully they'll be our guests as well, Martin Waite's The Old Religion, which is just out, and also MJ Arledge's Down to the Woods, his latest Helen Grace story. Pop across to Kobo and get your copies of that.
And we hear from Martin Waits in your report from Morecambe.
We do. He'll be able to speak for himself.
On which note, should we head up there now?
Aye, why not? Well, just because I'm at a crime writing festival doesn't mean I can't have a nice little go on the slotties on the side. That's what I'm going to do. Oh, this is lovely. Well, as the sun sinks slowly over the western skies, I'm in my hotel room at the Crown on the promenade here at Morecambe, looking across the bay, very calm on this late September night. And it's been wonderful. Everyone's walking around with sunglasses and still with shorts, so we can't really complain about the weather. Sometimes I think we miss complaining about the weather. But there we are. That's the British for you. Just been to the Winter Gardens to see the last session of the day, which I managed to catch. Ellie Griffiths, the wonderful Ellie Griffiths, in conversation with Peter Robinson, talking about his writing, his crime novels in particular, the Inspector Banks novels. Fascinating conversation. I had no idea that, for instance, he spent time between here and Canada, telling us about his standalone, how he likes to write standalones, and getting back into the head of his Banks series again, talking about the television version with Stephen Tompkinson and the effect that had on his writing as well, which was possibly not as positive as one might imagine. No disrespect for the actor Stephen, it was wonderful, but Peter has a very strong, as a lot of writers do, strong image of his main protagonist and many of his other characters as well, and he spoke very eloquently about how unsettling it can be when there is another representation of your character and it's not the one that you have lived with in your mind for years and years and years and years and years, and how that was a little difficult in getting back to writing another Banks novel. To some degree, he had to exercise the television version from his mind and able to get back to creating the stories with those characters on the page. So some nice, passionate, fascinatingly insightful stuff. And I'm going downstairs now. I'm sitting, as I said, in my hotel room. I'm going down to have some tapas. It is the festival green room, a buzz with actors and a wash with, I don't know, Ribena, Nesquik, whatever. Right, here we are in the box office for the festival. I'm here with Kate Bandler, Graham Bartlett and Neil White, who've just come hot off the press from their expert panel. And I'm just going to ask them a few words about a very special event they've got coming up in Cambridge in the next few weeks. Graham?
We're running out our masterclass into Cambridge on the 3rd of November, which is a Saturday at the Wesley Methodist Church. We have fabulous feedback from these masterclasses. We have great fun. Neil tells everyone what it's really like in court. Kate gets all hot under the collar about her forensics, and I talk about policing until I'm blue in the face. But people absolutely love it, and tickets are on sale now.
Great. So not just reading members of the public, people who read your books and read crime novels, but people who actually are writers themselves maybe and are interested in finding out more and make their books more authentic.
Yes.
Great. Well, Kate, what are you going to be talking about?
The do's and don'ts of how to get forensics right in crime writing, and we usually end up sharing a few anecdotes as well from our experience at crime scenes of how we've made mistakes and learnt from them. So we sort of work to a structure, but this stuff we end up talking about that we don't always plan to talk about. We occasionally go off on a tangent. So yeah, anything and everything. But I'd say although we aim for crime writers, it's also useful for fans of crime fiction and even students who might be studying forensics, criminology, that sort of thing. So open to anyone and everyone.
Great. And Neil, the legal field, which is an area which is just absolutely fraught with problems for an awful lot of writers, getting those sort of details right. What will you be talking about?
Just trying to give a basic overview of how the system works so that people can understand and see it in context and perhaps understand where they need to do the research and how important research is, because the law is an area where you can get it completely wrong and it completely ruins your credibility. But beyond that rather dry sounding account, especially with Kate and Graham and stuff, they talk about post-mortem. You get all the grisly stuff as well from Kate and Graham, all the bodily fluids, the dead bodies, all the funny tales from rather awful situations. So it's fun as well as informative, I hope.
Fantastic. November 3rd, Cambridge. I'm going to try and get there myself.
Be lovely to see you.
All right, see you guys. Thanks very much. Here I am with the wonderful best-selling author Martin Waits, who's just been on a panel with Hugh Fraser and myself and walked away with the best stories. But he's got a super best story that I'm going to ask him about. He's got a brand new book out, and it's start of a brand new series. So, Martin, tell us a bit about it.
Hi, Bob. All right, it's called The Old Religion. And it came about because I moved down to the West Country, and I found particularly Cornwall just to be an area that's not really explored enough in fiction. And I'd never written anything that was rural. I'd always done urban stuff and gritty, noirish urban stuff. And I wanted to see if I could kind of transfer that kind of sensibility over to a rural story. And of course the one thing that I really love apart from crime fiction is horror films, especially the kind of folk horror films, something like The Wicker Man. So I thought, can I try and do a kind of rural gothic noir that kind of is set in a very Brexit Britain, with overtones of The Wicker Man. And yeah, you can. Because I did.
And it's out now?
It's out now, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we hope to have Martin on the show shortly to talk about his all sorts of work. He's being an actor originally, and all his other best-selling books. But for now, we've had a good time up here, haven't we?
We've had a fantastic time. Yeah. I loved your song.
I had to sing a song. I'll tell you all about that later. It wasn't pleasant, but thank you very much for that, Martin. But so Martin's up here for the night. I'm heading home because I'm working in the morning. But so from Morecambe and Martin, it's cheerio.
Bye bye.
Well, here I am with Hugh Fraser again, who's going to tell us a little bit about his new book that's coming out, and we're out here in Morecambe, and we haven't managed to get to a restaurant this time, have we?
No, regrettably, although I believe we're going to have a common breakfast experience.
We are. We're going to compare breakfast. I had breakfast this morning, and Hugh is going to have breakfast tomorrow, and we're going to talk to him on Thursday about this, but in the meantime, we're standing in the bar at the Winter Gardens in Morecambe, eyeing up some ham rolls and salads.
Indeed, and a sign on them that says free.
A word all actors love.
Yes.
But we're showing great restraint, aren't we?
We're showing great restraint, yes.
Well, you're going to have some nice tapas this evening, I would have thought, and I'll probably end up having a ham sandwich on the train home. So from Morecambe and from Hugh, farewell.
Farewell, and see you at breakfast.
See you at
vicariously.
Vicariously.
Yes.
They do a very nice vegetarian sausage. Well, here I am in Crewe, after having said bid farewell, a fond farewell to lovely Morecambe. What a great festival. So many wonderful writers. The panels with MJ Arledge, who's the writer of the wonderful Helen Grace books. A new one out, watch out for him, and also co-writer of ITV's hugely successful Innocent, which played on ITV earlier this year, and I'm sure is available on platforms worldwide even as we speak. Stephen Kavanagh, wonderful. So, who else was there? A terrific workshop talk by Julius Green about bringing Agatha Christie to the stage. I mean, hugely informative. He's written the definitive book on her stage work, and that informs so much of her work, because I didn't realise in her later years she preferred to actually write for the stage than her books, something she was delighted to do, but something that her agents were less keen on. But she is also the most performed woman playwright in the world. There we are. I didn't know those facts, but Julius Green was on fine form, a producer and writer and chronicler of the Queen of Crime's works. So all I need to say now is thank you, Morecambe. It was a great festival for the guys who set it up and organised it, Tom Fisher, Ben Muir-Price. Well done. You did a super job, and to everyone working in the front of house, the bookshop, which was splendidly run, well done. You did an absolutely great job, and it's only your second festival, and my goodness, you should be very proud of yourself. So, as I say, farewell to Morecambe, a place that is exploding at the moment with wonderful positive things after, and this is from the word of the mouth of my taxi driver, Warwick, giving me a lift back to Lancaster Station so I can get here to Crewe, which I'm Crewe, international jet setter me, who said the last 12 months have been terrific. You know, he's born and bred in Morecambe, and he said there have been tough times, but there's been a turnaround in the town, a wonderful sunny summer, and lots of positive things happening, and you can see it and you can feel it in the air, that wonderful fresh ozone. Anyway, that's the end of the Crime Festival for 2018, and I wish them well. I'm setting up the next one, and I'm going home. From Crewe Junction, Bob Dawes, news at Morecambe. Good night.
That sounded like a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. As I've said, a lot of fascinating people. Something about these festivals which are great. I mean, there's a huge demand for them. I'm doing an interview a little later on for the BBC about the proliferation of literary festivals throughout the country. But they are great. There's a huge appetite for readers wanting to meet the writers, their favourite writers, and to be introduced to new writers. And likewise, there's a great appetite for writers to actually get out and meet their readers and listen to their readers and answer their readers' questions.
Get out of the house for a bit.
Get out of the house for a bit, yes. Yeah, leave the word processor to one side. What did I say, word processor? What a sweet old-fashioned
Showing your
boy.
age now,
Well, maybe not so sweet, but old-fashioned. Anyway, so yes, it was absolutely great. I think the report sort of speaks for itself, and we had a lot of fun and caught up with a lot of mates and made a lot of new ones.
A bit light on the restaurant reviews, though, I noticed.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should say that, because listeners, we try to deliver on our promises on Partners in Crime. So here, as promised, is Mr. Hugh Fraser to talk about all things delightful to eat in Morecambe, but in particular that breakfast that we mentioned a little earlier. Hello, Hugh, how are you?
I'm very well, Bob. How are you?
I'm very well. Returned happily from Morecambe, as indeed you have. So let's cut straight to the chase. Did you enjoy breakfast the following morning?
I did. I mean, as you probably know, the hotel we stayed in didn't do breakfast,
No.
and so I inquired of the only person on the premises, in fact, that I could find was a cleaner, who was very kind, and it's always good to get advice from cleaners, I found, in various areas of life, but particularly the culinary zone. And she recommended to me a cafe called the Sarsaparilla, which was along the front and behind the Royal Bar. So I toddled along there and had the most delicious vegetarian breakfast. I recently joined the vegetarian faith, and this was a superb example of the vegetarian breakfast. Halloumi cheese, mushrooms, 2 eggs, and baked beans with wholemeal toast on the side. Most refreshing, and an excellent cup of coffee. So often the letdown in a cafe, I find, where you get an excellent full English, but then the coffee's dodgy. But on this occasion, the coffee was superb. So all round, fantastic. And incidentally, they also had a rack of dresses and jackets, second-hand dresses and jackets, and some ornaments and knickknacks for sale as well. I tried on a couple of dresses, but they weren't quite my size. And, but it's good to know if you're near the sarsaparilla and need a dress or a knick-knack, drop in.
I don't say I'm immediately jealous, you see, because I had a wonderful vegetarian breakfast. I'm not a vegetarian, but I'd had a delicious steak at the Crown Hotel the night before, and so I thought I'd go vegetarian at Kerry's Cafe in Morecambe, which was wonderful service, marvellous breakfast also, no halloumi, but generous slices of hot brown toast and vegetarian sausages, which were quite delicious. Unfortunately, they offered no cross-dressing facilities at Kerry's.
Really?
Well, yes.
Oh.
There wasn't a slingback inside.
By that.
Yes, no.
Really? Oh dear, well, that's a shame.
So next time I will try sarsaparillas, and I would recommend that you have a visit to Kerry's also. But basically,
Kerry's, yes.
Morecambe didn't let us down, did it?
No.
It could be the new
the North
Aberdeen.
came through again.
Yes, well, we've done Aberdeen, we've done Scarborough, and now we've done Morecambe.
It's another page in the Partners in Crime Guide to the Restaurants of Great Britain.
Well, there we are. We'll be on the
Absolutely.
panel of the Great British Menu before we know it, Hugh. It's got nothing.
I'm sure.
It's got nothing to do with crime, but we enjoy it, don't we?
Well, a bad breakfast is a crime. Let's put it that way. So we're crime stoppers, as well as partners in crime. We're crime stoppers.
Oh, defenders of the faith. How marvellous.
Defenders of breakfast, absolutely.
Well, once again, as ever, thank you so much for joining us on Partners in Crime, Hugh, and we'll speak to you very soon.
Wouldn't have been the same without a Hugh Fraser restaurant review, would it?
No, nothing is. I mean, he's marvellous. I mean, he really is. He knows his stuff. And I'm going round to dinner. He was just waiting. What we didn't know, he's just waiting for the delivery of some dinner chairs, dining chairs. So I'm looking forward to eating some of his food in his own home. So that will be very jolly.
You didn't fancy sitting on the floor Middle Eastern style?
Yeah, well, I'm me, food. You've got me at food.
It's getting you back up again would be the problem.
It would be, yes, it is. Yes, especially this morning. I'm feeling a bit achy, actually. I've been doing a bit too much acting over the last few days, and it's not good for your health.
No, these things really are. They look fun, writing and acting, but yeah.
Oh, let's not kid ourselves. They are fun.
Oh, they are fun.
We
yes,
are very fortunate in that respect, but
not without their downsides.
It doesn't mean you can't pull a muscle occasionally doing both.
Well, you're more likely to pull a muscle if you're sitting here all day typing away. Then I've quite often stood up and gone, maybe I should have stayed there.
Oh, is that what that noise is?
Yeah.
Oh, right, fine, that's explained. I've often wondered when I've been downstairs and meandered in and I've heard a coming from upstairs. I didn't like to ask.
Well, the listeners can probably hear all these clicks and bumps, and, it's not me accidentally nudging my old desk or my microphone stand collapsing in the middle of the show, because that would be massively unprofessional. It's actually the clicking of my joints.
No, well, I'm professional. I just think it's life, this podcast is as it is.
Rough and ready, that's what people want, I suppose.
Yes, that should be our new name, Rough and Ready.
Yeah, we do our double act. Our Morecambe and Wise tribute act, Rough and Ready, yeah. I think that'll do for this week.
Yeah, I think that viewers, did I say viewers?
You're on fire this week.
Wow. Yeah, what ambitions have we? Can you imagine if you put a camera up in here, we'd lose half our viewers straight away. So anyway, listeners, I think you've heard enough of me.
And me.
Cheerio.
Partners in Crime was presented by Adam Croft and Robert Dawes and produced by Adam Croft. The theme tune was by the Caesareans. The Partners in Crime logo and imagery were designed by Stuart Faish. Partners in Crime is sponsored by Kobo, your favourite local bookshop, perfected.